Alicia. Welcome to Gim. That's God Inspires Me TV, where I hope to inspire you to pursue all that God has called you to do by offering you jewels of information and gems of hope. So I have been super excited all day. One, because this is our very first show, and secondly, I have a very special guest with us today. Please help me welcome Miss Asia Ford.
Thank you, Alicia, for having me on the show today.
Yes. So I feel like I've known you forever, but this is our first time meeting. But I want you to give our audience that is not familiar with your story and your journey a brief overview of how you became nationally known.
Well, a couple of years ago, I decided to beat a number from a race. I started that race because my ex-husband he's a diabetic, and my kids and I we've watched him over the past couple of years prior to that, just tear down his health, not intentionally, but something that we were used to. He's a diabetic, and he cut his finger in the kitchen, which resulted in him having an infection that almost caused him to lose his life. My kids and I stood before a doctor and a few other people in the hospital and were faced with a decision to remove his dad's hand.
Wow.
I stood at 507 pounds on that day.
Wow.
Yes, and my daughter, she came up to me crying because she didn't know if her dad was going to walk out of that hospital. And I didn't have that answer. But what I knew at that point was that I was going to do everything it took to save my life so that they would never have to make that decision for me.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you bring your kids into this world and you don't look at your kids and say, I'm going to take care of you and do everything I can to prevent anything from happening to you, but how are you going to protect them if you're not here? And that's something I never thought about.
Absolutely. Okay, so for our viewers that do not know Miss Asia Ford, she's been on CNN, ESPN, right? Fox News, TD Jake Show, and all of the local news here in Louisville. So I want you to tell us how you made it to that point. You was in the race, and this was in 2015, right?
Yeah.
2015, you decided to do the race and beat your number that you had the year prior to. So at Mark 5, when you was in the race, what happened?
Mark 5, I actually had pneumonia and bronchitis, so I wasn't supposed to be out there, but I thought I was over it. I didn't eat breakfast. So with that last pill, my son and I thought we had everything. My body started shaking a little bit when we were in the race about Mark 5. Well, actually it was Mark 4. When we got to Mark 5, I had already been approached by EMS, and the EMS driver tried to get me to get into the vehicle, but I was just like, no, give me just a little bit more, because at that point I thought I could make it. And the child that I was with, my son, he's that one that always wants to give up. So I was thinking in the back of my mind, I can't quit because then it's going to give him a reason to quit everything else. But I just couldn't make it. I couldn't. So I bowed my head and I actually prayed. And during that prayer, I started tearing up because I knew it was that point to where I was going to finally have to give up. And it's like God heard that cry. You know, just at the moment that I needed him to pull through for me, he not only pulled through for me, but he showed my son that you can make it even through the midst of your storm. No matter what's going on, you can make it. And I felt my hand raised, my left hand, but I remember squeezing my son's hand on the right, and I got really, really overwhelmed. And so I really couldn't, you know how when you start to cry real bad and you really can't see through those tears. And I just so happened looked over to my left, and there was a police officer by the name of Officer Gregory, and he picked up my hand, and I turned around and I was thinking, God, you are just powerful, you're almighty, you know. And he asked me, do you want to finish this race? And I just nodded, yes, I did. And he said, I'm going to see you through, we're going to finish it together. So.
Wow, so this is why Miss Asia is our very first guest, because this is what inspired me about her story. Now I think I'm going to get teary at talking about it, because her determination was relentless, y'all. She decided to not give up. This was a 6 mile?
This was a 6.2 mile.
6.2 mile race. And despite what she was feeling in her body prior to the race, she said, no matter what, I'm not going to stop. I'm not giving up. That's enough to make you raise your hands and praise God, because you too don't have to give up. You too don't have to stop. Just remember what your goal is in mind, and remember to press towards the mark. Okay, so next I want to ask you the journey that started this whole race. So you had already started at 507, right? Your weight was 507. So at 507, what was it? I know you said your ex-husband had a traumatic experience. What was the thing in your mind that said, this is where I cannot do it anymore?
My children. You can't stare your kids in the eye and tell them that you're going to do everything to protect them, but you can't be around. You know, if you're not around, then who protects them? So at that moment, it was my child looking at me, and she wanted an answer. And the only answer I could give her was that I'm going to be around.
Yes, that's phenomenal. Okay, so Miss Asia, I want to ask you, you did the race in 2015. Your journey started before then, though, right?
Right.
So how much weight had you lost before the race?
I had actually reached about 112 pounds then before I decided to make that my next milestone, which was running the races.
Wow. So when you did the race prior to, was that something that you did with friends and family?
I did. One of my coworkers / friends, she actually was already running. I used to watch her all the time run, and I just never could remember when the last time I ran. I don't even know if I ran as a child because I've always carried the weight. So I decided that's something I wanted to do after watching so many people practice for these races. They were actually getting prepared for it. And on my way to boot camp, I saw a crowd of women running, and I wanted to know what they were running for in the cold winter.
Yes. Okay, so you just mentioned you had dealt with this as a child, and this is actually another question that I had. For so many of us that battle with weight loss and weight gain, it's something that we stem from since we were a child. And for me, I feel like this is something that we do. We kind of put on weight as we stress, and we kind of put on weight as we think about things that has been traumatic in our life. So who is your biggest support system?
My kids.
Yeah.
My kids. I would definitely have to say, besides God, it would have to be my kids.
Okay, so I see your daughter has gotten involved with your journey as well, and I think that is absolutely phenomenal. But one thing I wanted to ask you, I had been journaling. I had started my own weight loss journey myself. And thank you. So a couple years ago, I decided to eliminate, I guess, poultry like meat. I eat fish, but I had decided to eliminate the red meat. And as I had started that journey, I noticed my body began to change, and I did take off a lot of weight that I had. But as I was journaling, I realized I was writing down, you know, I wanted a healthy life and a healthy mind. This is what my shirts say, heal thy mind, heal thy life, which is a healthy life and healthy mind. And for me, I thought about where it started for me. It started for me as a child. It was something that I see my mother, she would diet like seasonally, off and on. And so as I grew into adulthood, I did the same thing. And for me, I realized that it started with my mind for me to make a decision to make a whole lifestyle transition, a whole lifestyle change. How did that happen for you?
It pretty much, honestly, I've gone through my entire life being heavy. I was born as a 12-pound, 11-ounce baby. So it was the same, you know, life packed on. And I didn't have people around me to show me the direction or tell me, hey, that's too many calories, or hey, you need to read labels. So I just walked life like I was supposed to walk it. And had it not been for my ex-husband almost losing his life and my child coming to me wanting an answer, then I would have never gotten on this journey.
So how has this journey changed your life? Like, what has been the biggest impact that this journey has had on your life?
I think the biggest impact has been, honestly, my daughter she has a weight issue too. And I think the biggest impact is that I'm not being taught. I'm not the student. I'm the teacher. So it's huge for me because my daughter has spent 9 years in a wheelchair because of Blount's disease, and I didn't know how to comfort her except for the only way that I knew, which was food. So she's gained some weight. So to be able to be that teacher, that mother, and to be able to tell her how to do this journey, you know, and have those conversations, it's built me. It's built me four trucks strong because my daughter little girls, sometimes they have those malady situations, or they get frustrated at certain stuff, and my daughter and I can relate now. So it's made me a stronger mother, a stronger friend, a stronger teacher. So I would have to say that's the biggest for me overall. I mean, other than my sons, it would definitely have to be my daughter. The lessons that I'm learning with her.
So with that being said, what has been the biggest challenge in this whole process?
The biggest challenge has been the eating aspect. I'm addicted to food, and I can honestly say that. A lot of people think that you just pick up weight just to be picking up weight, and it's not that way. Like, I have had so many obstacles in my life, and I have followed what everybody else thought. I never got to that point to where I truly said, Asia, you have to start living for you. And I feel like I was a young mother, so it was kind of like what I took from childhood, being bullied and allowing people to make decisions for me instead of me making my own decisions, or allowing people to tell me that I was not this beautiful person and really didn't have direction. So from that, I gained weight, and I kept gaining it. And I realized at one point in my life that you're addicted to food not just because you want to be addicted. You're addicted to food because everything grabs onto you. Life grabs onto you. Stress grabs onto you. You're an emotional eater. So to go into a store or a restaurant, I have to make that decision on, do you want to live? I have to mentally prepare myself when I walk in a store or a restaurant. So that's been my challenge, making the right decision.
Do you want to live? I love that. Okay, so I wanna ask you. You talked about being bullied and everything since a child. When was it that you decided that you're actually worth it?
I would have to say after the first 100 pounds, I was in a store, and I actually was preparing for the race, because one of my friends, the very first race I did was in Lexington, and I saw so many people at the starting line with so many different. It's like they were on their own walk of life. It didn't matter about people around them, and that love that they had there made me realize that you don't have to worry about what other people think of you. It's about what you think of yourself.
Absolutely.
And I realized once I came across that finish line, Asia, if you were worth it to stand out here and make this commitment to do this race, just imagine what God has prepared for you, and it's right there. It's right in front of you. And I think that first race in Lexington, it was actually a Biggest Loser race. And that was the first day that I realized, by talking to some of the women out there and really truly seeing these women come across this finish line, it wasn't just a milestone. It meant something to them, and that's when I realized it. I realized it was time to take my life back.
Yes, I'm worth it. Okay, so for many women especially, different people battling weight loss journeys, but women especially, we hold our image and our self-worth and what we look like. So how did you balance, how did you get to the point to where you became confident in whatever size you was at whatever point? Because I was telling, before we even started this interview, I was like, oh my gosh, look at this, look at that. And I had to check myself, like, we're not worried about that. You're okay. When did you get confident with exactly who you were?
I'm going to be honest with you. I just recently fell into that because for a long time, I would stand in the mirror and not realize that my daughter is watching me, and I would say, oh, my arms, oh, my stomach. And I started watching my daughter, and I would hear her say the same thing. It's a learned behavior. So you just taught this to your daughter.
Absolutely.
So a couple of months ago, honestly, like, I've always been the person who smiles behind the tears. And if you met me, you would never know that I was going through something, because I always was taught whatever goes on inside stays on the inside. So just recently, talking to my daughter, I kind of looked at it like, man, it's a reflection in the mirror. You're talking to your daughter, but you're really talking to you. And so I bent down at the side of my bed, because God He's been with me through every point of this. I mean, it's amazing how when I ask Him something, it's like He wants me to see how strong I really am. And I bent down and I said a prayer. I was like, God, I'm ready to turn it over.
Mhm.
Like sometimes we fight battles that cannot be won unless we truly turn them over.
Yes.
And when I turned it over, I realized, hey, it's time. It's time for you to understand that God put you here for a reason. Regardless of what you look like now, you're still beautiful. And
Absolutely.
I have to start telling my daughter. I've hung mirrors on our wall because, like I said, it's a learned behavior. You watch somebody else, it quickly can be put on you, and you not even know it. The crazy thing is I've learned that it's who you put yourself in contact with too. You know, for a long time, I thought I had some of the best friends in this world. I did, and I thought they were my ride or diers. And
I want to record this. Can we?
It is.
And so once I started losing weight, it was like, man, you don't want to separate yourself from them, but you can't do the old stuff that you did before, because just like any other addiction, hey, when you hang out all the time and that's all you do is eat, you're going to continue to do it with those friends because you don't want them to feel some type of way. You know, but then you have to realize, it takes it back to that love aspect of it. You know, you have to realize that, hey, I have to love me first. I love y'all, but I love me first.
And I'm worth it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's been a real serious journey. I mean, my daughter would come in the room and I'd be standing in front of the mirror and I'd be like, oh my God, I can't fit this shirt. And my daughter would literally say to me, Mama, there's nothing wrong with this shirt. But I'm looking like, oh no. But as I'm realizing, as time goes by, we're our worst critics.
Yeah, we're our worst critics. And this is the thing, we have to reprogram ourselves. Like, especially when we're dealing with addiction, weight loss, all of that type of stuff. We have been trained, like you said, as a child, it's learned behavior, and we have to take out those 30-something odd years that we've heard negativity, that we've spoke over ourselves, and reprogram all over again.
And negative will pull you in faster than positive. So I follow a lot of people on Instagram or you know, Facebook. They'll inbox me, well, did you see my news feed? And I just have to be honest with them. Honestly, I have so many people following me, and not everything is positive. And it's hard to be a positive person out here. And negative can pull you in so fast. So I try to stay where it's gonna keep me uplifted. Otherwise, everything's gonna fall in for me. I'm not one of those people who are organized with, if everything's going wrong except for this, I'm gonna be okay. No, if everything's going wrong, I might fall in. So I just rather keep it to where everything that I put myself around, it's gonna remind me of, wait a minute, Asia, I said reward meal, not reward day.
Or reward week, because I have those moments. Reward week. But it goes back to training yourself all over again. I've had several, I go up and down, like I'll lose weight, a significant amount of weight, and I'm so proud of myself. One stressful situation will put me 10 pounds over. And it's frustrating, but we just have to learn and train ourselves all over again. It's a process.
Oh my God. My friends and I, we go to Gatlinburg every year. And as we've been going, like I'll find myself, okay, I'll mentally prepare, I'm not gonna work out. But everybody knows me. Once we meet up, they like, we know she's gonna work out, and I'll pull everybody in. And this year I made a commitment to myself, whatever you gain, girl, you're gonna lose it anyway, so it don't even matter. And I worked out one time during the entire week that we were down there. And so when people get excited about, you know, big things, I'm excited about something small as I just relaxed for the day, you know. And I even took a picture and posted it on Facebook. Look, I gained 4 pounds, but that's the thing, being truthful with you. If you're not truthful with you, then I mean, how are you going to come out and say, I'm going to lose weight? And, you know, if you let anybody down, it's going to be yourself at the end of the day. I mean, my doctors get so excited now. And I've been trained to hear, you're going to die by this age if you don't do something about it. So for me to walk in a doctor's office or, you know, to gain 4 pounds and not be depressed about it and be excited about it, people look at me like, something's wrong with her.
Yes.
It's a different mentality. I'm trying to retrain myself.
So I just want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about the habits that you have adopted, like your meal prepping. I seen you got videos doing that, exercising. Talk about your whole daily journey, everything that you do on a day-to-day basis that keeps you on the right path as far as healthy living.
So the first thing I do when I get up in the morning times, I just thank God for just waking me up. And after I read like different positive quotes to help inspire me, and then I'll share it. Then I'll hit the gym about 4:30 or 5, just depending on what I feel like. But I always make sure that I get at least an hour in a day. I just started picking it up just because I'm trying to really kick my legs in left gear. So I make sure that I do my workout. I'll make sure that I work out at least an hour a day, at least 4 to 5 days a week. And then in the summer, it goes up a little bit more because I go to 6 days in the summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 6 days because the kids aren't in school, because I work, and you know, I'm a full-time mom, and I also my kids are in school, so it's like my job, I have to be at work at 8:30, so I got to make sure that I work around my kids getting dropped off at school, and then I have to make sure I work around my workouts, because a lot of times my kids, they have things to do in the evening. So a lot of times when I talk to people, they're talking about their schedules is busy, and it's really that you have to make time for yourself instead of putting yourself on that back burner.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. How do you balance, this is my biggest thing, how do you balance motherhood, full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Exercising, eating right, and social life? How do you balance it all?
Honestly, I have to work it out in my head by the week. So I've learned that the same way I meal prep, I have to prep my lifestyle.
Oh.
You know, I do pray sometimes things go to the left. Like my youngest two just got jobs, so it's like getting them back and forth was a struggle at first. And it was like, okay, you're gonna have to work out in the mornings, but then sometimes I can't go to bed until late at night. So it's like, did you wake up and do your workout? And if I don't, I have to realize that the balance has to be equal, you know. So I have to find someone to take my kids to, you know, to work if they have to be at work. Thank God my 18-year-old just started driving not too long ago. So it's kind of like you have to work it like you're meal prepping. You have to plan your week out, and if something's thrown in the middle of it, then you have to come up with a plan for that. You know, there's a lot of home workouts that you can do. YouTube works all day long. People don't understand that you don't have to go to a gym to get the workout. You can do it from the center of your own living room if you needed to. It's just how bad do you want it?
Yes, that's it. How bad do you want it? Okay, so I want to go back to this meal prepping thing. I've tried it on several occasions. It takes really like mad discipline for meal prepping. Is that something you do every week? I do it every week, and to be honest with you, it's not as bad as people think. I think if you don't know how to do it, then that's where the problem comes in. Okay. It's really as easy as you could take a family pack of chicken, and like I use like the boneless, skinless chicken, but I always get it in the case because it's 4 of us, you know. So you can take a family pack of chicken and throw it in the oven with whatever seasonings you want to put on there, and you can even throw like your green vegetables in the oven. Everything can slide in the oven. That'll still give you enough time to do your housework if you have to. You just have to slide in the kitchen a couple of times and check on it, you know. And then when you pull it out, let it cool off, get your bowls prepared. It's better to do it on a day that you're off and you know you're at home doing housework than for you to do it on a day that you're running around, because it'll never get done. Okay. Okay. That's a tip for you guys and me as well. And I ended up finding out about the racing, the Triple Crown and stuff like that, going to boot camp. So Chris Vaughn is actually my coach at Aspirations. And I have paid, I can't tell you how much money I've paid to trainers or to gyms and asked for somebody to hold me accountable. And this was the first time. It's kind of like God just he aligned my life. It was kind of like I prayed about it, and he was like, now I know you're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and take a hold of you. Okay. And he put the right people, positioned them in the right place at the right time. When I met Chris Vaughn, it was through one of my coworkers. I came to work after my ex-husband had gotten out of the nursing home, and I told her, I need to do something. I promised my daughter, we prayed about it, I promised God that I would change my life, and I need help. And she told me, she said, I want you to inbox this guy. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, how much is it going to charge? She was like, it's a boot camp. And I was like, a boot camp? What is that? And so I went on Google to find out what boot camps do, and they were like, running and stuff. I was like, no, I need some modified stuff. And she was like, just inbox him and see what he says. And he came back, he was like, well, you know, meet me at Shively Park on this day. And so I went out there, and I saw, standing at the gate at Shively Park, I saw these women running, and they were doing lunges, and they were doing burpees, and I was thinking,
507 pounds. I ain't gonna be able to do none of that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I wasn't going to show them that the big girl couldn't do it.
Right.
You know, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to do this, but I ain't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get through the class, I ain't coming back. And in my mind, I was on third shift, so I really wasn't going to come back, and I was going to use the excuse, Lord forgive me. I was going to say, well, third shift got in the way.
Oh, no. Okay, so we have this in common. I'm a third shift. Are you still a third shift?
No, I spent
okay.
look, I did my 8 years. Look,
Okay.
Yeah, so when I first started my journey, though, I was on third shift, and I heard so many negative comments about you never be able to do it on third shift. And actually, when I first started, I wasn't even on social media. 2 of my coworkers said you should hold yourself accountable with your friends and family and go on Facebook. I couldn't even set up the page at the time. One of my coworkers had me set it up, and I was already wore out from this boot camp. So the first 6 months I did terrible. I mean, I didn't do terrible in the aspect of the working out. And the only reason why I honestly went back to the working out, one of the boot camp women that worked out with me, she posted a picture and tagged the boot camp women in the picture, and I kept cutting off my phone because I was trying to get sleep. And when I woke up, I had so many messages that my phone was burning up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I wanted to know what the hype was. So I looked at my phone, and it was this picture of her before and her currently. I got up and I was like, wait a minute, wait my eyes, and this girl looked good. And she was talking about how she worked out and she ate right. So I got up, I put my pants on real quick, and I got back out there.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I missed either a day or two because I really wasn't gonna go back.
Wow.
But
wow.
it really inspired me. And
Wow.
you know, I got out there, I learned so much about these women. My coach wasn't a coach who wanted to take my money. He wanted to see results, not just for him or a portfolio. He wanted to receive results about me. You know, I want to see what type of change you really want for your life. And that was the first time I had ever talked to anybody who really cared about me. You know, I want to see you shine. You know, it's not just about me. And so the more I stayed with that boot camp, I learned that there were women out there on all walks of life. We had women that you would not believe met a rise in their neck from bad car wrecks.
Wow.
You had women who actually had things that hindered them from doing certain things, but they were determined. So I was around a strong group of women who didn't want to give up. And when I decided that I wanted to give up, they talked me out of it. And my coach would remind me, you're out here for who? You know, so it was kind of like, this man really cares. These women really care. And so God brought me a whole new set of friends and family. So I used to say this is my second set of family, but then he would be like, your second set? I'm like, you know what, you're right. You're
family.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you talked about your kids inspire, they motivate you, but your accountability partners are the people.
Inspirational.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. We
He didn't put you here to be talked to any type of way, you know. And growing up, I watched so much in my household, and that's where what goes on in the household stays in the household. That's where that comes from. And in my household, I had to make that decision. So, baby, when I tell you I was so excited that God brought me the person that I needed, total different. When you finally know what it feels like to have the door open for you instead of you always opening the door for somebody. Oh, it's powerful.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, you look great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look great.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to go back to one other question real quick. Okay, you started at 507. Okay, so as of today, how much weight have you lost?
I have honestly lost, now, I would have been 258 down, but I gained some, so I'm 236.4 down.
Okay, so but in total, how much is that? What?
It's altogether 236. Well, it would have been 258, but like I said, I've gained some. And the thing about the process of gaining some, I think a lot of times we beat ourselves up because we gain. And the thing is, you have to remind yourself of how far you come. You know, even if I gain, if a person walks up to me and they say, "Oh, you looking like you get," you ain't gonna take that from me.
That's it.
Thank you, but no thank you. You know, you have to just remind yourself that it takes a lot to even lose 1 pound. So imagine you losing, I've lost 2 people plus
Two
some.
people.
You know, and for me, I'm able to step in inside a pair of pants with two of my kids that I used to wear. So nobody can ever take me down the road of not loving me or how far I've come. If I decided I'm gonna eat a piece of cake, well, Asia, you know what you got to do to get that piece of cake off. You know, so I have to remind myself that never allow anybody to knock you down to where you can't get back up. I always have to remind myself throughout anything that I go through, even stressful times. You know, I go through stressful times just like everybody else, but I have to remind myself, you may gain, but you already have tomorrow. It's right in front of you. Just keep on pushing forward.
And then not only that, and I think we touched on this earlier, don't let anybody else knock you down, but don't knock yourself down.
Exactly. We are our biggest critics. So, you know, you standing in the mirror to even social media. That's one of the reasons why I don't really get on my news feed like that, because sometimes I look at people and I wonder why they're putting themselves in a race with somebody else. The race should be against the old you, not the person next to you. And so I have to look at how I'm living my life. Before I'm judging somebody else, I need to take a look at me. So I stay off my news feed because a lot of people, they may not know that they don't mean you well, but unfortunately they don't. And it can take you into a place because you've read what they're going through. They may be the happiest person because the grass looks green on this side. You don't know what the background looks like. So instead of you wishing that your life was like that, take a look at yours. You know, and that's why I include God first. I don't wake up the perfect person every day. Believe me, I still have a road ahead of me. But one thing I do know is I'm gonna meet my maker. You understand what I'm saying? So when I wake up, the last thing I'm gonna do is sit here and tell you about your life when I know mine ain't 100% in pieces. You know, so it's just you have to make it what it is. But don't beat yourself down. Stop being your biggest critic.
Yes, absolutely. So you talked about the road that's ahead of you. What's next for you, Miss Asia?
Well, I'm not gonna put it out there yet, but I can tell you that I'm learning more about me. You know, so every day I'm learning something new. I want to eventually jump from a plane.
I do that.
I do. Okay. I eventually want to jump from a plane, but right now I'm taking baby steps. So I'm about to start traveling pretty soon so that I love The Biggest Loser and some of the things that they do in their shows, and so I want to climb the sand hill. I want to do stuff that I've never been able to do. So I'm taking it baby steps, but I have some big things coming. Yeah,
I think people think I'm crazy when I say I want to go parachute.
Oh no, I do. I've already zip lined. I'm on. Look, I'm telling you stuff. You know it. When you're not, I think sometimes we don't appreciate what we have. You know, I can remember growing up watching all my friends being able to fit into dresses or being able to fit into small spaces or even in a desk. You know, I had the hardest time. I remember one time in school, I got up and the desk got up with me. You know, and the small things are what matters to me now. I can sit in a desk. I'll go into school. You know, when my kids, when they have parent-teacher meetings, I'll sit in the desk just to avoid the table because I can now. You know, or, you know, stuff as small as being able to get on a roller coaster ride. I was put off of a roller coaster ride, not that the worker was trying to be mean, but I was put off in front of my kids because I couldn't get the belt over me. And my kid's day was ruined that day, you know, because I left the park because I was just frustrated. My kids wanted to leave. But I was able to come back. My kids and I, we went to Florida. We went to Disney World. And that was the second time I was able to ride a roller coaster ride with my kids being in the same seat. So it's just those milestones, those small things. And I think a lot of people need to remember that. You know, whatever you weren't able to do before, take advantage of those things because we only live one time.
Count your blessings.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that concludes our show for today. Y'all, if y'all have not been inspired by Miss Asia thus far, you crazy. She has inspired me, not only me, but nationally, a group of people. So I just want you to take with you from this interview that you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You can do whatever it is you put your mind to. And this is one thing that has inspired me most by her. Don't stop. Don't quit. Until next time, have a good one.